Hello, it's Ella Harp, and today I wanted to go over my first pair of raw denim selvedge jeans that I recently completed, sewn entirely on my vintage Singer 1951 212. I had originally planned on making this video sort of a step-by-step and going through the process at each juncture, but unfortunately, jeans are really hard, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm very lucky to have turned out with a pair of jeans that if you aren't looking too closely, you can pass off as being professional-ish, but I really just blundered my entire way through, and that meant lots of taking seams apart and also trying to have myself organized and the light good enough and myself look good enough to find out that everything I did was wrong and I have to take it apart and do it all over again. So while this video did not turn out the way that I planned, I wanted to share some of the footage that I was able to capture and also some tips and takeaways from the experience. If you'd like to jump to the timestamp footage, the link is below. Otherwise, let's get into some takeaways of self-drafting my first pair of jeans. Jeans have been my sort of final frontier in sewing for quite a while now. I have made everything that I wear with the exception of jeans and also boots and socks, but I don't really want to make those ever. It took a lot of time for me to work up the nerve, and I practiced sewing 2 pairs of selvedge denim shorts last year in preparation. First pair, I used the Allen Helene Jeans pattern. The second was sort of a hybrid between her pattern and self-drafted, and this pair is fully self-drafted. One of the things that I did this time that I would recommend is starting with a pair of oversized jeans, cutting them apart at the seams, and using those pieces effectively as a toile. I really enjoyed, it's not really a fun process. Pants fitment's the worst. What's great about it is because you're using denim, it's a lot more similar to what the final product will be. Also really helps to see these pieces laid out flat and flexible if you're not really familiar with how jeans patterning works. So effectively what I did was take the front and back panel pieces, sew them back up together, put them on, and then start making adjustments. I made sure that they were sufficiently oversized so I had enough material to cut off, and I would just pin something, test sew something. I used a straight stitch on my sewing machine with regular thread, so I was able to easily rip it apart, and I basically just went back and forth, putting them on, taking them off, making small adjustments, and eventually coming up with a fit that felt good. And once I knew everything that I wanted to change, I cut everything down and then marked that on a paper pattern that I'll have going forward in the future. The main adjustments that I made was taking fabric out of the back center seam and yoke. I always personally find that I have too much fabric back there. And then also I had this situation going on in the front where I had this kind of fortune cookie crotch thing. It was terribly unsightly. I took a scoop out of the front curve and that helped a lot. Pants fitment is quite complicated, but there are a couple of guides I found useful. I will link down to below. Honestly, just trying things on, test sewing, and experimenting was probably the most instructive in my experience. This fabric was dead stock cone mills I got off of eBay and was unreturnable. That unfortunately was not stored very well, so I had a bunch of sun streaks and lines to work around in my patterning. I did my best, but some of it is still visible and you can see some streaks in certain sections. I've linked to a few more reputable places to get denim in the description below. I wanted a mid-rise jean that was fitted in the top block with a fairly fitted leg, but not so much so that my legs would lose circulation when I need to do things on the ground. I made the inseams ridiculously long at 39 inches. I may or may not decide to hem them once they've been washed and shrunk a little bit. I used a size 18 needle and Gutermann heavyweight thread on the top and bottom. It's a little thicker than regular thread and thinner than top stitching thread, which my machine found easier to work with, and it's also in slightly larger spools, which makes it slightly less expensive. Top stitching is one of those things that looks amazing when it looks amazing and looks pretty unamazing when it does not look amazing, so it's worth taking a lot of time to practice, and anytime I messed a seam up that I wasn't happy with, I just picked it apart and started over again. While frustrating, it's definitely worth the effort. I used a vintage Singer buttonholer for all the buttonholes, which worked pretty well. The only inconvenience is that because the shaft on this is reasonably low, I had to sew the top buttonhole on before I attached the waistband to the jeans, which is a little bit of a clunkier process, but worked. I did a one-piece continuous fly on these. They open so much wider because there's no really tight section of stitching here that's preventing these from opening all the way, so it makes it a lot easier to get your jeans on and off. I'll put up a video on how I do continuous flies soon, but in the meantime, I'll link to another video down below if you want to try it yourself. I did a 2-piece darted waistband, so effectively there are 2 waistband sections sewn together here with a V. So the top of the waistband is narrower than the bottom of the waistband, which seems to help the gaping in the back that I often find I have issues with. I felled all the main construction seams, including on the inseam, and also used no binding in the outseam. I just finished off every seam itself and sewed them down flat. The double back belt loop came about as a workaround because my machine was giving me trouble sewing through all the layers to make a single back-centered belt loop. Probably my favorite design and visual detail on these jeans. The patch says Wear Til Dead, which has become the minimalist motto I've adopted in my approach to handmade clothing and how I use and think about it, reminding me that I'm happiest when I have fewer well-made and well-loved items that I wear and repair the absolute life out of. I did end up with some leg twist on this pair, which I know can happen in selvedge jeans, though I am used to seeing it twist in the opposite direction. Bit of a bummer from a patterning perspective, but looks pretty cool from a fashion perspective, so I just decided to go with it. Definitely going to do some experimentation and try to figure this out for my next pair. I promise to keep working on my jeans making skills to share more informative content in the future. If you'd like to follow along with more things denim related, you can check out my new YouTube channel called Wear Til Dead, which I have linked down in the description. But until then, please enjoy the very sped up version of nearly 70 hours of my life.
Chords and chaos, white walls, windows and me, scattered fabric scraps across the room. Is this the best that I can be? And I can only sing for you, feed the pain like sugar in the wine. And I still run out of words like the cold in my pocketbook. Tell myself